can I do for you, officer? Well, first of all, it's damn difficult to find, which is why we've been knee-deep in the reeds laying traps for it. Good question. Being a phasmid of the order Phantasmodea, a ghost insect, it disguises itself as plant matter. In this case, the reeds. Awful lot of reeds around, aren't there? And I suspect it may have also developed other specialised techniques to protect itself from predators, or scientists in our present case. It's my hypothesis that it has evolved certain electrochemical defences that allow it to interfere with animal perception, impeding pattern recognition, confusing the visual cortex. But I cannot describe how these defences work, much less how they evolved, without studying a live specimen.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. You're beginning to suspect there's something paranatural about this phasmid.
I'm expecting it to be quite giant. One known species of phasmid, called the Megaphasmodea zoensis, is about the size of a grown man's forearm, so
Seems puny, to be honest.
typical rookie assumption. Insects are much more sophisticated creatures than those unversed in zoology give them credit for. Even simply catching a glimpse of the Insulindian phasmid would be the apex of of any cryptozoologist's career. But to study it and its defences, find out how it stayed hidden so long. Very little, I'm sorry to say. No one's ever captured a specimen, so all our information is based on first and third-hand accounts. Not yet. That's what makes it a cryptid.
Just out of curiosity, if there's no proof of its existence, how do you know it's real?
I know it's real. By which I mean, I've heard enough first-hand accounts to believe quite firmly that the Insulindian phasmid is more than mere superstition. Yes, the most recent sighting was by a couple of teenagers along the coast here. That's what brought us to Martinez specifically. It's the first credible sighting in several decades. Admittedly, it's an unusual location for this species, but with all the sewage runoff upstream, it probably doesn't matter much anymore. I have to resist the thought such an extraordinary creature is doubtlessly highly resilient. After all, it's generally thought to be capable of parthenogenesis.
He means asexual reproduction. The females of the species don't need to mate to produce viable eggs. This makes it easier for a species with a small population to survive.
Yes, the Insulindian phasmid is a very clever insect. That's why it's so damn difficult to catch. But as a scientist, I'll try my best to remain dispassionate.
There's nothing dispassionate about the way he talks about the insect.
Well, they may not look impressive, but Lena designed them quite cleverly, so I'm sure they'll do the trick. Yes. Simple. Attracted by the locusts, the phasmid crawls down the funnel and, having eaten its fill, can get back out. At least, that's the intention. The net isn't a perfect solution, but we didn't want to use anything that might damage the specimen's delicate exoskeleton. Locusts. Nearly all known phasmids are herbivores, of course, but we've hypothesized that the Insulindian phasmid might occasionally prey on other insects.
Inside the traps, a number of locusts crawl and tumble over one another in a tiny, chittering swarm. A meat-eating stick insect? Does it pretend to be the reeds as part of its ambush behavior? This seems unlikely.
Thank you for your opinion. We have also included plant material in the traps to satiate your skepticism. They'll work, I assure you. The predatory hypothesis, using locusts as bait, accounts for the failure of previous efforts by other teams, which use plants. We have given this some thought.
The traps do seem to be deftly and thoughtfully constructed. It's clear the cryptozoologist's wife knows what she's doing.
Yes. What? And I'm eager to return to her, I assure you. But I can't leave before we finish with these traps. My wife understands that just as well as anyone.
Come on, Morell. We've been soaking out here for days. It's time to go back.
And leave the traps? Absolutely not. I won't let Lena down.
Come on, she wants us back. I'm soaked up to my nuts over here. We'll both catch reed crabs if we don't dry out soon.
Won't let Lena down? Sounds like the cryptozoologist's wife shares a special connection to the phasmid somehow.
Of course it's important to her. She's seen it. A verified sighting, on record. One of only 4 this century, and it's hers. Yes, that's how we first came to know one another, in fact. But that's her story to tell, not mine.
Needless to say, you must ask her about the mysterious phasmid.
Suffice to say, it's long been our dream to find proof of the Insulindian phasmid together. I can't abandon course now.
His spirit may be willing, but his body might be too old to endure the rigors of the coast.
No, no, no. The traps need to be monitored on a regular schedule. What would we do if the phasmid were to starve while we were sipping tea at the hostel?
He's dead set on this. I could go for some trap setting.
I didn't expect you to take such an interest in our work here, officer.
Why not? At least it will give us the excuse to look into a lot of reels.
That it will. That it absolutely will. I hope you brought your good boots. There are 4 in total. One is to the south, on this little peninsula, by the boathouses there. It's very near. Another we set in Land's End, to the northeast. It's behind a small sand dune there, on your way to the old radio tower, after the church. The third is set near the canal, where you crossed, by a concrete slab. A big thicket of reeds going up the slope, and among them, you should check at least one of those before returning to this one, since I just said it. This one's more of a technicality, but still, better safe and stupid than sorry. Bring it to me at once. Just make sure the trap is closed tight.
He's not comfortable with the possibility that you'll claim the find, but he's lying about this even to himself.
That's highly unlikely, officer. But in the event you do, I'll spray you with a pheromone mixture I developed. It's made of musk and research chemicals. The pheromone should attract the insect to you, or at least prevent it from bolting at the sight of you. It's quite potent. Will last you about a week.
This is the smell of dying reeds, of longing crumbling into the water.
I hope you're not buying this. He dispenses it without letting you touch the canister, so it would be precious like holy water.
It is precious. A single dose cost me 50 real to develop. Not that I expect you to understand self-financing one's own research.
Right, which means you two can pack up and go back to the whirling.
Whatever he thinks about this detour, it's clear that these men are exhausted and in need of assistance.
Finally, someone's talking sense.
Thank you for your help. Gary and I will start breaking down camp. If you have any more questions, now's the time to ask. We'll be gone once you get to it.
If it's more cryptid-related business you want to discuss, you'll have time for that later too. But what if the information is vital? On the hunt.
I've just always liked animals and puzzles. Searching for cryptids is a bit of both. It's not child's play, just because I have to traipse through the mud every so often. Real. I know you think one is a respectable profession, while the other is superstition. Everyone does. My methods do not differ from other scientists. I simply draw upon a wider variety of evidence. And I have more hope that something truly surprising might happen.
Your nerve endings tell you there is no such thing as a positive surprise.
Agreed. Yet there is always a chance, albeit a small one, of a truly good surprise. One simply needs to look at the history of science. Serendipities abound. No, as I said, I have yet to catch a cryptid, although I have come close. Close enough to keep trying.
Interesting. Something for later, this close call.
Everything from forgotten regional lore to newspaper accounts, like the one that brought us here, to look for the phasmid. I keep a very open mind.
He's interested in things that people believe that scientists don't.
Most establishment scientists only care about reputation and remuneration, not real research, and certainly not the truth. They're a cowardly lot, and both the field and basement archives can be dangerous places. No, very few cryptids are ever discovered, and not for a lack of trying. To stay hidden is a cryptid's primary quality. It's even in the name, cryptid. Of the list of cryptids kept by the Cryptozoological Society of Chemnee, which is 4,082 items long, about 2,000 have been confirmed as hoaxes. 2 are categorized as confirmed discoveries. The rest are in differing stages of discovery, refutation, and data collection. Yes, the Chateau Quan forest pygmy, who turned out to be an extinct species of primate, and a cave salamander from Yugograd, who is, honestly, quite unremarkable. It's in a zoo somewhere. We cryptozoologists are brutally honest with ourselves, more so even than the public. With cryptids, most cryptids are hoaxes or they are never found. That does not mean we should stop searching. Indeed. If our expedition is successful, every paper in the world will report on it. From Revachol to Dushantu. It will be a zoological miracle.
The hair on your arms stand up. Electricity. Sounds like reeds hissing. He has clearly done his math on this. There is no surprising him or swaying his opinion.
Yes? All right. What cryptids precisely? I usually discuss these things with specialists. so I don't know what.
We would have to discuss. He wants to say, but decides against it, since you've offered to help.
A willow person. It's a long story. One non-specialist would find rather dull.
Willow people? Not at all.
They're not people, really. Some argue they aren't really animals, as they seem to have evolved directly from trees. They're very, very thin, almost flat in fact, and can camouflage themselves easily, wrapping themselves around trees and blending in with the tree bark. In that way, they're not too dissimilar from the phasmid we're looking for here. You probably have. Gary and I painted an entire grove's worth of trees in slow-drying paints. It was a bright lavender colour. I was hoping one of the willow people would get paint on it and not be able to camouflage itself. After waiting in hiding for hours, I saw a figure slip from one of the trees, a lavender shadow dashing through the grove. I chased it with a net. Not very elegant. You can't be elegant in the field. And, well, it was faster than me.
A lavender shadow.
I know you think we were snacking on funny mushrooms. It's easier to mock someone than to admit that the world might be more interesting than you've imagined. Furthermore, I'm not saying it was a confirmed sighting. I'm painfully aware of what goes into verifying such things. There is a serious possibility that I saw a squirrel or a trick of the light. I am my own harshest critic. Confirmed. It's 100% verified and meets all the standards of an authentic cryptid sighting. I'm guessing you heard about it from Lena. The kind green ape is one of her favourites.
A warm wave passes him. Of course, the kind green ape is her favorite, he thinks.
We travelled to South Safra to look for it once. Gary and I got stuck in a rainstorm, though, and had to spend most of our time there in a little village. The search was fabulously unsuccessful, but the people were very nice. I'm glad they didn't understand what Gary was saying about them.
What? South Safra? They're just on a different rung of the ladder, Morell. I had no problem with them.
Really? You kept complaining about how dirty everything is, but we digress.
They're a nascent culture. I just didn't feel comfortable. And let's change the topic, okay? Talk about your critters, or whatever.
Formerly the most dangerous, yes. But do you know the most dangerous living cryptid?
He doesn't want to make it feel like you knowing it is some big deal.
The what? Oh, you're just talking about humans. Well, yes. We are quite dangerous, but we're hardly cryptids. The most dangerous cryptid is a carnivorous ruminant, known colloquially as the dread moose. Yes, the dread moose subsists entirely on flesh. It has even been known to dig up fresh graves in search of sustenance. Human remains have been found deep in the forest, torn apart, then trampled into the mulch by large hooves. Infer from that what you will. Just like an ordinary ardent moose. You can't. That's what makes it so dreadful and hard to identify.
A moose that looks like any other moose. What's going on here? He's kidding, right?
Of course you do.
The bodies found in the forest are just one piece of physical evidence. There's more. Sightings in Vasa, reaching back 4 centuries. But, of course, nothing satiates the skepticism of...
A detective. Pardon me, I did not wish to seek conflict. It's simply my training to question things.
Understood, Lieutenant. That's impressive, I guess. But have you seen it with your own eyes? I haven't had a chance to travel to Coco Nor. No. And I likely never will. The Samaskil desert region has been embroiled in a small civil war for the last 8 years. I fear this mindless barbarism may have wiped out the elusive creature entirely. Sightings of towering luminosities have grown rare recently, while they once used to be constant.
Yes, sightings of mirages are constant. A mirage is a constant phenomenon that people have no time to report when a war is going on. It remains unclear what this has got to do with you seeing it, as he was inquiring before. He was just being defensive.
That's impressive, I get. Of course you haven't. I haven't had...
Yes. So it remains unclear what this has got to do with you seeing it, as he was inquiring before. He was just being defensive.
Oh, everyone knows about that one. Thanks to Professor Mijanu being the talk of the town for a time. Although, probably because her life ended as a result of her work in Gutler, no one remembers her contributions to the search for the Nongok. A flightless cursor owl found in the Seminine Isles. Its long legs permit the Nongok to run faster than any other avian, perhaps any other animal, who knows. When it's not hunting its prey in this manner, the Ock hangs from tree branches, like a bat, waiting to dive on hapless prey below on the jungle floor. Mijanu liked extreme animals, you see. One of the few figures of the academic establishment I respect. Really a shame she disappeared. Oh, decades ago. In the 30s. I didn't know her personally, of course. The chasm of academic pretension still stood before us, even though she had unusual courage for someone from the other side. No offense, officer, but I'm not much of a pedagogue. I don't know what I would have done if Lena hadn't persuaded me to go back to field research. You should ask her if you want interesting stories. Me? I'm not a people person, unless you haven't noticed. And I don't make a good lecturer. My strength lies in field work and persistence. By all means. Hell no. I had no idea. And I'm still cross with him, to be honest. It's not like him. He's got his quirks, but dishonesty, disloyalty are not one of them.
Thanks.
He's still glad his friend stood up for him.
Hello again. Very gen...
There's a trap in the reeds at your feet. Looks like the same one you saw Morell set before. Same mesh, same wiring. Behind you, the ruins of a residential building rise over the reeds, shielding them from the wind. The reeds rustle confidently. When this district was booming, the reeds were kept at bay. Nothing obscured the freshly painted facades. Nowhere for drunks and adventurous teenagers to hide. Now only the wind blows. Locusts are crawling around in the trap, confused but uneaten. You see no carnivorous reed phasmid gorging on them.
Big surprise. Anyway, 1 down, 3 to go. Surely. Anyway, the air is nice and fresh here.
A scattering of bullet holes is spread across the cracked wall, reaching from one corner to the other.
Correct. The density of the bullet holes is unusual, even in a general average bullet hole frequency in Martinez sense. Grim affairs. Meaning, this is a lot of bullet holes. Looks like fully automatic rifle fire. Something you don't see these days. The manufacturing and sale of automatic rifles was curtailed after the revolution. The destructive power of such tools proved to be too much. We do need to retain some humanity in this world.
A row of ghostly shades stand facing the wall. There are many of them, a dozen at least, their heads lowered and eyes blindfolded. It's quiet, no sound, no movement. 10 meters away, other shades are lined up in an orderly manner, automatic rifles primed. A gust of wind blows by. The coats of the firing squad flap slowly in the breeze. A single person stands on the side. The sun blazes high up in the sky, baking the planks, the sand, your skin. The order was carried out in the afternoon. A long time has passed since the moment of this fusillading. Rain and brine have since washed all the blood away. Not a trace remains. The abundance of bullet holes leads to two options. Either an inordinate amount of executions were performed here, or they did not use a conscience round, where only one soldier has the loaded rifle. Looks like this was a mass execution with everyone fully armed. A host of men, probably in everyday clothes, ragged from the conflict and covered in dust. They were not sitting, a common practice for executions in some nations, as demonstrated by the height level of the bullet holes. They stand, facing the wall. It's impossible to discern any details about their personality or background. Ordinary people, familiar, each and every one of them. Comrades, the forsaken, the wretched, who tried to rise against the horrors of the world. 7 men in combat uniforms and dark coats, holding automatic rifles aimed at the people. Soldiers from some side, but from which one? Men of duty, dark duty. Murderers, twisted by orders, young boys forced into killing. The commandant, the one who gives the order, machine gun fire crackling through the air, the lights of the muzzle flashes dancing on his face.
I don't know. I don't know who died here, lined up beside that horrible wall. It could have been any of the parties involved in the revolution. Perhaps the ones executed here were the loyalist conservatives, killed by the communists at the start of the Civil War. Or it could have been the communists, put to death during the last stretch of the conflict by the coalition forces.
Remember what Trent Heidelstein said about Veld?
Another likely scenario.
Or maybe...
Yeah, it's very unlikely the coalition forces were the ones who died here. They were always the last ones against the wall. To be honest, if a coalition member was anyone in this situation, it was the commandant, the superior giving the orders.
A cold sea wind blows away the figures. Behind this building, the other one, once filled with engineers and designers of Feld Electric, now collapsed and dead, but for some rats. You feel drawn, for some reason, to the faded mural again. This is the trap Morell just set. Checking it over, he said, is just a technicality. But the reeds by the abandoned campsite hiss and shake. It's good the cryptozoologists left. This isn't a very cozy place to stay night after night. The later it gets, the colder. Remnants of the camp can still be seen in the sand. The fire that's gone out. You feel strange, somehow. This trap is also full of panicked locusts. No sign of any cryptozoological beast inside.
Another empty trap. Always up for a good jog. Otherwise, would I still be on this case with you?
The remaining windows rattle from a strong gust of wind. They're covered in a thick layer of grime. They must have been like this for 40 years. Dripping water falls from a high place. All you can see is the shadow of a collapsing staircase. There's rust and corrosion on the bars. They're foaming with it. And a small layer of white salt from the sea.
No. I won't even try. You know, I had a partner once. They called him Eyes, because he had to show me things. It's that bad. Well enough, actually. It's odd how that works. I'm no sharpshooter, but I passed my shooting courses 7 out of 10.
The smell. It's awful and familiar. It doesn't help. You can still smell it. Keep it in now. Don't overreact. Breathe. Don't be naive. Don't you recognize it? That hideous pungency, that faintly cloying sweetness. Only death smells like that. Something cold wakes in the pit of your stomach. Fear. It is death. It must be. The lieutenant has already brought a handkerchief to his nose. There's some tear, an empty cigarette package, and a crumpled kebab wrapper in the trash bin. 2 empty bottles of Tallulah vodka and a can of black potent porter is all you find. No, there's more in there. Livis strawberry liquor, plus some Pilsner bottles too. Better not pick them up. They seem unhygienic.
A tragedy.
He shakes his head with genuine sadness. Whoever tossed it here was a heavy smoker. The brand name reads Red Astra. Red Astra is the black market version of Astra cigarettes, known for their high tar content. You see traces of mayonnaise and ketchup on it, as well as a tomato wedge. The wrapper reads Shish Kebab Revachol. It's no older than a day or two. No mold yet. It's hard to concentrate in the smell. The sea air brings some relief. A man lies on the boardwalk, his limbs bent and neck turned at an unnatural angle. Right next to him is an empty bottle of spirits. In his cramped hand, a chewing gum wrapper. Half of his body has slipped between the cracked boardwalk, starting with the right leg. The fall has left him broken, contorted like a sad puppet. The smell is not as bad as a 2-week-old corpse, but it's definitely heading there.
Hold on. Lividity is faintly pronounced. Whoever this is, he's been dead for 2 days. No longer. We need to investigate.
Another dead body. This is your job. Steel yourself. Calm now. Carefully. Just another day. Just another dead body. Breathe. He's wearing mud-caked boots, beige trousers, and an old brown leather jacket with a bright blue lining. There are traces of kebab sauce on his chest. The leather jacket suits him well. It must be custom made. A cool leather jacket with a bolt of blue? Oh no, this sounds terribly familiar. You find some sunflower seeds and a rain-soaked library card folded into 2. His jacket feels sodden and heavy under your hand.
Good. We should take a look at that library card after this is done.
The man has fallen through a crack in the boardwalk and hit his head against the metal bench. Coagulated blood covers his black hair. One of his feet is still dangling through the hole. A bad fall. It might have been dark outside. This place is a minefield in the dark. When damp, these boards are really slippery. Even a sober man could lose their balance here. His expression is dull, like the sea behind him. Drops of water shining on his mustache. His eyes, empty and wide, look frightening in their frozen gaze. Height, 170 to 175 centimeters. Curly hair, stout build. Age, approximately 50 to 60 years. There's some dried blood on the metal bench, right where the corpse's head rests. The floorboards are rotten and slippery wet around the hole. An empty bottle lies nearby. A chewing gum wrapper is clutched in his fist. Be very, very careful where you step here. A dried chunk of blood covers the hair at the back of his head. An open wound. It's sticky and cold to your touch.
I don't see any other major wounds, do you? Seems like the head wound was fatal. It's exactly the shape of the bench.
The boards screech under the weight of the T500 ceramic sabatons. It's a good thing they're so light, because it's hard to determine whether it was the dead man's weight that caused the boardwalk to break. It definitely looks fragile. You see waves churning below. Something cracks beneath your feet. He could have easily disappeared into the sea through that hole, and you would have never found him. A .75-liter Tallulah vodka with its cap missing. There's hardly anything left inside.
Tear all around us.
Rubowski spearmint chewing gum. Green leaves on the cover. The man's mouth is half agape from the terror of the fall. The blackness of death. Stench. You think you see white chewing gum too. Confirmed. Nearly the whole pack is there. Solidified on his lower rear teeth.
He ate the whole pack, right? It's to cover the smell of alcohol before going home. The worst thing is, I've seen it before. Almost the same scenario, even the chewing gum. It's always the same.
The entire boardwalk creaks in the wind as you take a step back.
Looks like one of the locals. He'd have to know this spot to come here. You don't just walk over here. But that's just a lazy assumption. What do you think?
A dead working-class man with a bottle in his hand? Don't deceive yourself. You know who this is.
The woman you met at the book stand? Why do you think it's her husband? The bright blue lining? Well, he's definitely someone's husband. Death by misadventure. He slipped and fell through the boardwalk. A truly unfortunate accident. If it wouldn't have been for that bench, he'd be alive. No, I don't see anything that points in that direction. For now, let's treat this case as a simple, albeit sad, accident, unrelated to the murder case.
Yes, but what if there's a killer on the loose? 2 suspicious deaths in such a short time frame.
A sequence killer? There's nothing that connects those 2 bodies. This is a completely different case, an accident.
What if all of this is staged? He could have seen something that night in the yard.
Yes, but I just wanted to make it clear it's not a sequence killer, okay? Oh yes. Some symptoms of acute alcohol poisoning could have definitely played a role here. Severe confusion, respiratory depression, unpredictable behavior. But I think that death arrived through head trauma, not liver failure. What about it? The deceased ate some kebab. It's probably from a nearby place, maybe in the Pox.
Sometimes a kebab is just a kebab.
They'll seal this place off after the news reaches the coalition officials. I doubt that they have enough resources to actually repair the boardwalk. Not that sealing it off would keep anyone away. All it does is keep the city council's hands clean. It does seem to be a pretty straightforward misadventure, although there's still a question of identifying the body. From where I stand, I can see 2 options. We either take the case and follow the leads to identify the body on our own, or we report back to the station and leave this for our colleagues to handle. A field autopsy isn't necessary if the cause of death doesn't appear to be criminal, and this looks like a simple accident to me. I'd say we should just write down head trauma and leave it at that. Let's keep this detour as short as possible. The sooner we get back to finding Ruby, the better. Maybe, but we don't really have much time or resources to spare. The guys at processing will take care of the rest. Alright, we should first examine the library card you found. Then we can call the station from my kinema. Let them know we are taking the case.
The library card is folded into two and still slightly wet to the touch. The front side reads, Central Jamrock Public Library Card, issued to Billy Mejean, expires July 53. Billy is a unisex name. Could be the deceased, or his family member. Whoever owns this card is an avid reader. You find a list of books written in blue pencil. Radio thriller. Stand a little less between me and the sun. The last one in the list is The Glinting Curve by M. Theobald. A library stamp indicates that the book has been returned. Most of these titles seem to be in the sci-fi genre. Some thrillers too. If lost, please return the card to the library. Dial 005 02 55211 or visit us at Morell Street, 78, Jamrock. Business hours, 900 to 1800.
Good. We should give them a call from Mikey Nema. See if we can learn anything about Billy Mejean.